Guys, in this chapter, we're gonna talk about the basic difference or the key difference between frames and groups in Figma. Well, guys, frames and groups are the two key elements in Figma which helps us to create amazing designs. And it is very important to understand the basic or the major uses of Figma, frames and groups in Figma. So let's directly jump into my Figma tool and let's get understand it. So guys, as you can see, I'm on Figma right now, and here I'm gonna show you the difference between frames and groups. So let me do one thing first. Let me create some icons over here so that I can make you understand. Okay, let me customize these icons as well. Let me add the strokes here. Let me increase the size of the strokes. Okay, this would be fine. Let me change the color of the inside. It looks good. Okay, that's okay. Now I'm gonna set this as a default property, so whenever I design any element, this will like use the same designing like this, right? So I've created circle. Let me create one more. Let's go with polygon. It's fine, although it looks a little bit bigger. Anyways, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna simply select this and I'm going to group this selection. So basically, if you want to group this complete selection, you can simply right click here by selecting it, and here's the option group selection, or you can simply press Ctrl G and it is grouped now, right? So this is what, or this is how the groups work. And when you like group these elements in your layers option or in your layers panel, you will gonna see this option, basically the sign of group, right? Now like if you want to drag it, you can simply drag it as a group, and if you want to select it any of these elements inside the group, you need to double click here and you can simply select that particular element as well, and you can independently drag that element or edit that element, right? In the same way, if let's say the group is selected, you can see these elements under the group, right? These three elements. So this is a complete group. If you like click on this drop down icon, here are the elements. So whatever the element you select, it will like gonna automatically get selected, and you can use that element independently or you can edit that element independently, right? But this is like completely grouped, and if you select this group, you can like drag or you can take this group wherever you want, right? You can increase the size, decrease the size, or you can do whatever you want. Now this was all about the group. The next we have frames. First let me do one thing. Let me simply duplicate this by pressing Ctrl D, and it is duplicated. And here I'm gonna ungroup this by clicking here, basically by right click, and you can simply ungroup this. Now these are the ungroups. I mean, these elements are got ungrouped. You can like independently drag them wherever you want. If you are not selecting them, if you are not creating a selection, this is not a group now, right? This is all still, this is a group, but this is not a group. Now here you can see the icon of group looks like this. Now I'm gonna make a frame using these three elements. These are not group, these are independent normal frames. You can see here all these not frames, elements. All these elements are independently mentioned here in under the iPhone 14 and 15 Pro frame, right? This is also a frame. So don't get confused. This complete dashboard or this complete clipboard where we are working is also a frame, and under this we are again creating one frame. Okay, so when I like select the element, create a selection, and simply click on frame selection, or you can press the shortcut key Ctrl Alt G, it will gonna create a frame. Now, as you can see here in the menu, in your layers menu, here you can see the icon of the frame and here is the icon of the group. Now, you might think that this is the only difference between both the things, because both the like both the elements or both the options are doing the same thing, right? Like both are helping me to drag the elements in a group, right? If I double click here again, I can independently use this or edit this element like I did in group. So what is the benefit or what is the extra use of frames or using frames, right? If I click here in the drop down menu again, I can do the same thing which I have done with the groups. So what is the extra thing or extra benefit of using frames? Well guys, let me show you. There are multiple extra uses or extra benefits of using frames. First thing is, like, for example, so basically if I delete these elements one by one, here see this, if I delete this one, if I delete this one, if I delete this one, the group disappeared, there's nothing, right? Let me bring them back. Okay, now they are here. And the group is also here. Okay, but in frames, when I delete this element, when I delete this element, when I delete this element, still the frame is here. Even in the layers, you can see the frame is here. So frame can survive on its own, but the groups or the group can't survive. Now what is the benefit of like this surviving thing? Basically, let me show you. So all the elements are here, it is under a frame. Now let's say if I wanna do this, right? In groups, if I do this, it will gonna suppress or compress the elements under this under the group, right? But on the other hand, in frames, when I like stretch or when I compress the frame, the elements are completely intact like that. Now what is the benefit of that? If on the right hand side in menu here, you can see the clip content option. If I clip it, this is gonna looks like this, right? So you can clip content if you need it. This is one of the benefit of frames, and there are multiple benefits like this. Clipping content is like one of the benefit of frames. Now what is the use of this clipping content? Now guys, here's the example. Let's say I do have one element here and I have this menu kind of thing or maybe options kind of thing here. So this is like the option menu. Multiple options are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So let's say I want to place this option here. But obviously I don't have a like complete space here so that I can fit this options here. So what I can do in this case, I can like create a frames over here and I can do this thing like this and I can clip this content. Now I can add a scroll thing here and I can scroll all the menu or all the options one by one by clipping the content. So like my elements will not gonna overlap here because I have clipped the content using the frames, right? Like if I drag it, as you can see, it is gonna overlap the content. If I bring it front, it will gonna overlap the content, something like this, right? So I have clipped the content. Now I can add a menu, or I scroll over here and like people can scroll the options through like this. So this is the one benefit of frames. Now let's say just in case if you want to unframe any element, so you have to basically select that particular element. You have to right click and there's an ungroup option. So if you want to ungroup any element or if you want to unframe element, there's only one option, ungroup, right? Now as you can see, all these elements are independent here, right? Now I do have 3 elements here. Now let's say I copy my logo from here, simply copy it and paste it here. Let me resize it a little bit. Okay, in order to resize it, obviously I need to select the text. I need to go here and yeah, 14 would be fine, I guess. Yeah, Let me place it here and let me make a frame selection one more time. So I have made a frame selection one more time, and as I already told you, the clipping content option is here. So if I decrease the size of the frame, the elements are still intact, right? But there's another benefit of frame. Let's say here's one element. Now in the constraints, when you select the element, you will see the constraints option if you are selecting the element under your frame. So in constraints here, you can see it is selected in left. If I made it right, in the top, if I made it by selecting this one as well, oops, if I made it right on the top, okay, leave it in the top again by selecting this. If I made it right, and it should be in the top. So this is basically the horizontal and this is basically the vertical, right? Now what I have done, I have sticked, or basically I have pasted these elements into the right frame or the right side of the frame, right? As you can see, I have selected all these elements in the right side, right? In the vertical section, as you can see, oops, this is on the right, this is on the right, and in vertically it is on the top, right? Because there's no lot space there. Now what is the benefit of this? What is the benefit of doing this? Now if I stretch this box, basically these all elements are stick to this particular side. So if I stretch this box, make it smaller or larger, basically stretch or compress, these elements will gonna stretch with the same size or stretch with the frame. Now what is the benefit of it? Basically, what is the benefit of it? Let's say if I get one more frame here of a tablet here, this is iPad mini, okay, here is it is iPhone 15 Pro and this is iPad mini. Now let's say if I bring it here by simply copying and pasting here, now what I can do, I can simply stretch this icon like this and it is done, right? But if the frame was not there, if the group was there, so I need to like place these elements manually here, because in the groups these kind of options are not available, right? That's why we use frames in Figma, and frames have too much options, too much accessibility compared to groups, right? Groups are typical or normal groups, but frames have different options. Even this complete artboard or like the frame, I mean the display where we are working is also a frame. So you might get confused that this is also a frame and under this is also a frame, and if you select an image that will also come in a frame. So there are multiple frames, but you don't have to get confused. This is how the Figma works. I hope you understood the basic difference or the major difference between groups and Figma, groups and frames.